My daughter-in-law told her friends I smelled like bleach and failure. She said it right in front of me at my grandson's 5th birthday party, laughing like I wasn't standing 6 feet away holding a present I'd wrapped myself. I'm Robert Callahan, 64 years old, and for the past 12 years, I've let my son believe I was barely getting by on Social Security and odd jobs. What my son Brandon didn't know was that the little cleaning business I mentioned once in 2015 had grown into Callahan Facility Services, a commercial cleaning and maintenance empire spanning Arizona, Nevada, and New Mexico, with 2,400 employees and contracts worth $89 million annually. When he and his wife Nicole sat me down last month to explain why I needed to sign over the deed to my house for estate planning purposes, I didn't argue. I just smiled and made 4 phone calls. If you're watching this, subscribe and tell me where you're from, because this story is about what happens when your own family sees you as a problem to be managed instead of a person to be loved. Most people see exactly what my son Brandon sees when they look at me. A guy in his mid-60s who drives a 2004 Ford F-150 with 280,000 miles on it and a dent in the tailgate from backing into a shopping cart. Someone who wears Wrangler jeans from Walmart and steel-toed boots that have been resold twice. I bring store-brand potato salad to family barbecues and always ask for water instead of wine because I say it's better for my blood pressure. Brandon Callahan, 34 years old, MBA from Arizona State, senior project manager at a commercial real estate development firm, pulling in $175,000 a year. His wife, Nicole, 31, top-selling real estate agent in Scottsdale, drives a white Range Rover and has never once asked me how my week was going. Not once in 8 years of marriage to my son. The first warning sign came 11 months ago at Easter dinner. Brandon started calling my house the family property in conversations with Nicole's parents. Then it became our Arizona investment. Then just the Callahan place like I was already gone. When Robert passes, we'll finally be able to do something with that lot, Nicole announced over ham. The location is incredible. Half-acre in North Phoenix, walking distance to the new shopping district. We could build something modern. When Robert passes, like I was a calendar event. The second sign happened when Nicole started bringing her realtor friends to check on me. They'd walk through my house, pointing at walls, talking about load-bearing structures and square footage, taking photos with their phones. One of them actually measured my living room while I was sitting in it watching the Diamondbacks game. "Don't mind us, Robert," Nicole said sweetly. "We're just helping you understand your options." My options. In my own house. What none of them knew was that I'd built that house with cash in 1998 after selling my first janitorial company. What none of them knew was that every Tuesday morning, I drove that dented F-150 to my corporate headquarters in Tempe, where 47 people reported directly to me. What none of them knew was that the cleaning supplies in my garage were samples from a specialty division that manufactured eco-friendly industrial solvents now used by 3 major hospital chains. But the real breaking point wasn't the realtors walking through my house or the comments about me passing. It was what happened 7 weeks ago when Brandon and Nicole brought her parents over for what they called a family financial discussion. Richard and Diane Henderson. Richard sold his insurance agency for $2 million 15 years ago and has been acting like he invented money ever since. Diane volunteers at their country club and makes sure everyone knows her daughter married up from my side of the family. They walked into my home like they were touring a foreclosure. Richard immediately started pointing at the ceiling. Water stain there. Probably a roof leak. These older homes are money pits, Robert. You're probably hemorrhaging cash on repairs. I built that house. I know every pipe, every wire, every foundation crack. The stain was from a fixed issue in 2019. Nicole was taking notes on her iPad. Brandon nodded along like Richard was delivering wisdom from a mountaintop. "Dad, Richard's offering to have his contractor look at the place. Get you a fair assessment. Maybe figure out what needs to happen before." He trailed off. "Before what?" "Before we need to make decisions, Robert," Diane said gently. "You're not getting younger. These things are easier to handle proactively." Proactively, like I was a termite infestation. "Have you considered assisted living?" Richard asked. There's a nice facility near our place in Scottsdale. Reasonable rates. They have shuffleboard. I'm 64 years old. I run 3 miles every morning. I can still change my own oil and fix my own plumbing. And this man was suggesting shuffleboard. Brandon jumped in quickly. What we're trying to say, Dad, is that you shouldn't have to worry about maintaining all this by yourself. Nicole and I have been talking about our 10-year plan. We need space for the kids. A second one is coming. He glanced at Nicole, who put a hand on her stomach. This house, this lot, it's perfect for what we want to build. And where would I go? They exchanged looks like they'd rehearsed this part. There's a senior community in Surprise, Nicole said. Very affordable. Units start at $895 a month. You could probably manage that with your Social Security and whatever you've saved. Whatever I've saved. Richard leaned forward. Robert, I'm going to be honest with you. You're sitting on a property worth at least $650,000. In this market, maybe more. That's a lot of equity for someone in your position. You could sell to Brandon and Nicole at a family discount, bank the difference, and live comfortably without the stress of home ownership. You're 64, Diane added. These years should be about relaxation, not struggling to pay property taxes. Am I struggling? Brandon's voice got careful. Dad, you drive a 20-year-old truck. You wear the same clothes you wore when I was in high school. You've never taken a vacation that I can remember. You can't tell me you're not feeling the pinch. I wanted to tell him about the vacation home in Sedona I bought in 2018, about the investment accounts, about the 2,400 employees who depend on me for their livelihoods. But I didn't. I just smiled and said I'd think about it. That night, I sat on my back patio where I'd taught Brandon to catch when he was 7, and I thought about the son I'd raised, the son who'd never asked what my company did, the son who'd assumed my worn jeans meant empty pockets instead of simple preferences, the son who was now planning to take my house. The email arrived the next morning at 7:15. Subject line, Family Property Transition Plan. Dad, Nicole and I spoke with a real estate attorney last night. Given Mom's passing 5 years ago, there are some estate planning advantages to transferring the property now rather than later. Here's what we're proposing. You sign the deed over to us immediately. We'll create a legal right for you to remain in the guest bedroom for up to 18 months while you transition to more appropriate housing. Nicole's found some great options in the $900, $1,000 range that would work perfectly for your income level. Richard's financial advisor can help you structure the proceeds. We want to start the paperwork this Friday. The guest bedroom, in the house I built, for 18 months. I called Brandon immediately. Dad, did you get the email? I got it. We need to talk about this. There's nothing to talk about. His voice was the same patient tone people use with confused elderly relatives. Nicole and I have analyzed this from every angle. This is what's best for everyone. Richard's attorney already reviewed the documents. Richard's attorney. Dad, I know this feels fast. But you're not thinking clearly about the financial reality. You're house rich and cash poor. That's not sustainable. I'm not sustainable? Your situation isn't. Look, I didn't want to say this, but Nicole and I have been subsidizing you for years. The birthday gifts for Lucas, the dinners we've paid for, the times we've forgotten to collect when you owed us for something. I couldn't remember a single time my son had paid for my dinner. We're trying to help you, Dad. The alternative is watching you slowly drown in property taxes and maintenance costs until you lose the house anyway. At least this way, you have some control over the process. And if I refuse, Brandon's voice got sharp, then we'll have to explore other options. Richard says Arizona has provisions for family intervention when elderly homeowners can't properly maintain their properties. It would be messy, but we'd do it if we had to. For your own good. He hung up. I sat in my kitchen, the same kitchen where I'd made pancakes for Brandon every Saturday morning for 15 years, and realized my son genuinely believed he was saving me from myself. The documents arrived by courier at 3 p.m. Official letterhead from Henderson Family Law, Richard's brother's firm. The language was wrapped in concern. Voluntary Property Transition Agreement, Dignified Residential Transition Plan, Family Asset Optimization. I had 45 days to sign, or they would pursue appropriate legal remedies to ensure proper stewardship of the family property. The letter included a budget breakdown showing my estimated monthly expenses based on typical fixed-income retirees in the Phoenix metropolitan area. According to their math, I could barely afford groceries after housing costs. The final paragraph made my jaw tight. This arrangement allows Robert Callahan to age with dignity in appropriate housing while ensuring the family property remains in family hands for future generations. Age with dignity. In a $900 apartment in Surprise, Arizona. I walked to my home office, the one I'd told Brandon was for storing tax records. I opened the fireproof safe. I hadn't shown anyone since my wife passed. Corporate registration documents for Callahan Facility Services. Incorporated in 2012. Financial statements showing annual revenue of $89 million. Bank statements from First Interstate showing liquid assets of $34.7 million. A Forbes Arizona profile from 2 years ago calling me the quiet giant of Southwest commercial services. I spread everything across my desk and started making calls. First call, Margaret Liu, my corporate attorney for the past 12 years. She picked up immediately. Robert, what's wrong? Margaret, I need documents prepared within 24 hours. My son is trying to take my house. Tell me everything. I did. When I finished, she was quiet for a long moment. What kind of documents do you need? The kind that remind my son that assumptions are dangerous. And Margaret, I need everything bulletproof. This family has attorneys. Consider it done. Second call. My CFO, Daniel Okonkwo. Daniel, I need to know every contract Callahan Facility Services has with Henderson Properties, Henderson Insurance Legacy Partners, and any entity connected to the Henderson family in Scottsdale. Give me 20 minutes. He called back in 15. Robert, we have 3 active contracts. We clean the Henderson Insurance building on Camelback, their satellite office in Tempe, and we just signed a 2-year deal to service the new Henderson Plaza development. Nicole Callahan's real estate firm has their offices in that building, actually. Combined value is about $340,000 annually. Terminate all 3, effective immediately. Robert, that's going to cause some chaos for them. They'll need to find new vendors within days. I know. Third call was to my operations director. Patricia, I need you to check something. The Weston Commercial Group in Scottsdale. They're a real estate development firm. Do we have any connection to them? Keys clicking. Yes, actually. We just won the contract to service their new mixed-use development in Gilbert. 8 buildings. Your son Brandon Callahan is listed as the project manager on their side. Contract starts next month. Pull out of the contract. Cite capacity issues. Recommend our biggest competitor instead. Robert, that's a $1.2 million contract over 3 years. I know what it is. Do it. Fourth call was the hardest. I dialed Father Thomas at the church where Brandon was baptized. Father, I need to ask you something difficult. If you were watching a man lose everything he thought he had, would you call it punishment or education? He was quiet for a moment. That depends, Robert. Does he have a chance to learn from it? I hope so, Father. I really hope so. The dinner party was Nicole's masterpiece. 40 people at a restaurant she'd rented out completely. Henderson, family, friends, Brandon's colleagues, her top real estate clients, everyone who mattered in their social circle. The occasion was officially Lucas's pre-kindergarten graduation, but I knew better. This was about showing off, about demonstrating the Henderson-Callahan family's success to everyone who counted. I showed up in my usual Wrangler jeans and a button-down shirt from JCPenney. I drove my F-150 and parked it next to Nicole's Range Rover. I could see her watching from the restaurant window, the flash of irritation on her face. Brandon met me at the door. He was wearing a suit that probably cost 2 months of the salary he thought I made. Dad, you're here. We saved you a seat at the family table. Thank you, son. Inside, the room was full of people I didn't know. Nicole's clients in expensive dresses. Brandon's co-workers checking their phones. The Henderson family holding court near the bar. Richard spotted me immediately and waved me over with the kind of enthusiasm people use when they want to show how tolerant they are. Robert, come here, let me introduce you around. He steered me toward a group of men in tailored suits. Everyone. This is Brandon's father, Robert. Robert. This is James Mitchell. Owns a development company. David Chen. Commercial real estate investor. And Marcus Williams. He's in private equity. They shook my hand with polite smiles. The kind of smiles people give the help. So Robert, Marcus said, what do you do? I'm retired. Mostly. Used to do maintenance work. Richard chuckled. Robert was in the cleaning business, industrial stuff, mopping floors, that kind of thing. I didn't correct him. Still working part-time? James asked. Here and there. Keeps me busy. Nicole appeared with a glass of wine, which she handed to Richard, not me. Robert prefers water, she explained to the group. Don't you, Robert? Water's fine. Easier on a fixed budget, she added, just loud enough for everyone to hear. The conversation continued around me. They discussed vacation homes and investment properties and private school options for their children. When Marcus mentioned his company was looking at a new development site near the Henderson Plaza, Nicole jumped in. Oh, we'd love to be involved. Our firm specializes in commercial property sales. And Brandon's company is actually doing the project management for the Gilbert expansion. Is that right? Marcus looked at Brandon. The Weston project? Starting next month, Brandon confirmed. Biggest project I've ever managed. I sipped my water and said nothing. Diane Henderson clinked her glass. Everyone, if I could have your attention. We're here tonight to celebrate Lucas's graduation, but Richard and I have another announcement to share. She looked at Brandon and Nicole with manufactured affection. As you all know, Brandon and Nicole have been growing their family and their careers beautifully, and now they're taking the next step. They're going to be building their forever home. Murmurs of appreciation around the room. They've found the perfect lot in North Phoenix, Diane continued. Half-acre, incredible location, walking distance to the new shopping district. It's actually been in the Callahan family for years. She looked at me with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. And Robert has graciously agreed to help make this dream possible by transitioning the property to the next generation. I hadn't agreed to anything. But now 40 people were looking at me, clapping, expecting me to smile and nod. Brandon stepped forward. Dad, we want to thank you publicly for this gift. We know it's a big step, and we're committed to making your transition as comfortable as possible. Nicole's already found several wonderful communities that would be perfect for you. Nicole chimed in. The Sunrise Senior Village in Surprise has an opening next month. It's very well reviewed. They have activities every day. Activities, I repeated. Bingo, crafts, that sort of thing. She patted my arm. You'll love it. Richard raised his glass. To family, to the next generation, and to Robert, for doing the right thing. Everyone raised their glasses. To Robert, I stayed seated. Brandon noticed. Dad, aren't you happy for us? I looked around the room. 40 people who had spent the evening discussing my future like I was furniture being moved from one room to another. I have a question, I said. Not loud, but the room got quieter. Brandon, do you know what company services the Henderson Insurance Building on Camelback? He frowned. What? I don't. Dad, this isn't really the time. What about the Henderson Plaza development? The one where Nicole's office is? Nicole's face tightened. Dad, what are you talking about? I'm asking if you know who cleans those buildings, who maintains the HVAC systems, who handles waste management and window services, and the thousand small things that keep commercial properties functioning. Richard shifted uncomfortably. Robert, we're trying to have a celebration here. I'll tell you, I said. The company that services all 3 Henderson properties is called Callahan Facility Services. Does that name sound familiar to anyone? Silence. It should, I continued. I founded it in 2012. I'm still the CEO. Brandon laughed nervously. Dad, that's not funny. Callahan Facility Services is a major company. They have contracts all over the Southwest. Yes, we do. I pulled out my phone and opened the company dashboard. Real-time revenue tracking, employee management, contract status across all 3 states, current day revenue across all facilities, $247,000. Active contracts, 1,000. 847. Total employees, 2,412. Nicole grabbed Brandon's arm. Is this some kind of joke? No joke. I own Callahan Facility Services outright. Current company valuation is approximately $89 million. Personal net worth, including the company, real estate holdings in Sedona and Flagstaff, and liquid assets, is roughly $112 million. Richard Henderson had gone very still. That's not possible, he said. You drive a truck from 2004. You dress like what? Someone who doesn't feel the need to prove anything to anyone? I stood up from my chair. Here's what's going to happen. As of 4 p.m. today, Callahan Facility Services has terminated all contracts with Henderson Properties. The Henderson Insurance Building, the Tempe office, and the Henderson Plaza development are now without cleaning, maintenance, or waste management services. You'll need to find new vendors by Monday, or your buildings will start smelling very unpleasant very quickly. Richard's face went red. You can't do that. I can. I did. Those contracts are worth $340,000 annually to my company. I'll survive the loss. Brandon stepped forward. Dad, wait. Let's talk about this. We are talking. Here's the second thing. The Weston Commercial Group project in Gilbert. The one you've been telling everyone is your biggest career achievement. His face went pale. Callahan Facility Services was contracted to service that development. 8 buildings, $1.2 million over 3 years. As of this afternoon, we've withdrawn from that contract and recommended our largest competitor instead. You can't, Brandon whispered. That project launches next month. Finding a new facilities partner at this stage will be very difficult. Yes, it might delay the entire development. It might make Weston question whether their project manager has the relationships he claimed to have. It might affect your career significantly. Marcus Williams was already on his phone, texting furiously. Nicole found her voice. This is insane. You're ruining everything because we wanted to help you plan for your future? You wanted to take my house, I said quietly. You called me a burden. You made jokes about how I smell like bleach. You planned my entire transition without once asking if it was what I wanted. But we were trying to help you, Brandon shouted. You live like you're broke. How were we supposed to know? You could have asked. You could have visited me for reasons other than wanting something. You could have called me once a week like I called you, instead of letting it go to voicemail every time. I turned to Richard Henderson. You told my son that taking my house was what family does. You had your brother draft legal documents threatening me with elder intervention if I didn't sign over my property. You invited me to this dinner so you could publicly announce a decision I never made. Richard sputtered. We were looking out for Brandon's interests. You were looking out for your own. You wanted the property in your family's orbit. You wanted to feel important by solving a problem that didn't exist. I looked around the room at 40 silent faces. My house was built with money I earned. The deed is in my name alone. And as of yesterday, it's been transferred to a trust that my son and daughter-in-law have no legal claim to whatsoever. Nicole's face crumbled. You can't just shut us out. I'm not shutting you out. I'm showing you the difference between what you're entitled to and what you assumed you deserved. Brandon sat down hard in his chair. This is because of the email. The property transition thing. This is because you looked at your father and saw an asset to be managed. You saw a problem to be solved so you could build your dream house. You never saw me. He put his head in his hands. How much did you know? He asked quietly. About the company? About everything? I've known everything, Brandon. I've known every time you told Nicole's friends that your father was simple. I've known every time you discussed my situation like I was a project you were waiting to close. I've known every time Richard gave you advice about handling me, and you nodded along like he was teaching you something valuable. I picked up my jacket. The difference between us, Brandon, is that I built something with my life. You're 34 years old, and you're still looking for shortcuts. You make $175,000 a year, and you can't afford your own house, so you decided to take mine. That's not ambition. That's entitlement. Marcus Williams walked up to Brandon, phone in hand. Brandon, just got a text from our CFO. Callahan Facility Services pulled out of the Gilbert project, He wants to know if you knew anything about this. Brandon looked at me with something that might have been the beginning of understanding. No, he said quietly. I didn't know anything. I drove home alone that night. Sat on my patio, same as always, looking at the stars over the desert. My phone buzzed with notifications. Someone at the party had been recording. Clips were already spreading. Millionaire dad humiliates ungrateful son at party. Real estate family tries to steal house from secret CEO. The internet loves a good revenge story. But I wasn't thinking about revenge. I was thinking about the little boy who used to help me wash the work truck every Sunday, who used to ask me 100 questions about my day, who somewhere along the way started measuring people by their vehicles and their wardrobes instead of their character. Nicole's Instagram went dark that night. Someone had found her old posts about my house, her comments about tackling renovation projects that weren't hers to tackle. Her clients started messaging her, some to quietly ask questions, some to loudly fire her. Brandon called me at 3 a.m. Dad, I'm so sorry. I know. Can I come see you tomorrow? Come on Sunday. Bring Lucas. Leave Nicole at home for now. Okay. He paused. I didn't know, Dad, about any of it. I swear I didn't know. That's the problem, son. You didn't know because you never asked. The weeks that followed were hard. Brandon lost the Gilbert project. His company didn't fire him, but they moved him to smaller accounts, and he understood what that meant. Nicole's real estate business collapsed after 3 of her biggest clients cited concerns about judgment and went elsewhere. The Range Rover got traded in for a Toyota Camry. The Hendersons stopped calling. One Saturday morning, 3 weeks after the dinner party, Brandon and Nicole showed up at my door together. No fancy cars, no designer clothes, just 2 people who looked tired and uncertain. Can we come in? Brandon asked. Yes. They sat on my couch. In the living room Nicole had once measured for renovation. She spoke first. Mr. Callahan, I need to apologize. Not because I want anything from you. Just because I was wrong. I waited. I judged you from the first time we met. I saw your truck and your clothes and I decided you weren't worth my respect. I made fun of you to my friends. I treated you like an obstacle between Brandon and success. She wiped her eyes. I've lost most of my clients. My reputation is ruined. And you know what? I deserved it. Because I was so focused on what things looked like that I couldn't see what they actually were. Brandon took her hand. Dad, I've been doing a lot of thinking. About Mom, about how you raised me, about all the years I thought I knew better than everyone. And I was a terrible son. You paid for my education. You taught me everything important. You were there for every moment that mattered. And I repaid you by trying to take your house while calling you a burden. He looked at the floor. I don't know how to fix this. I don't know if it can be fixed. But I want to try. Not because of the company or the money. I don't want any of that. I just want my dad back. I let the silence stretch. Do you know what I was doing? I finally said when I was 34. He shook his head. I was mopping floors. Really mopping them, not supervising people who mopped them. Your mother and I were living in a 1-bedroom apartment, saving every penny so we could build something. We didn't take vacations because we couldn't afford them. We drove old trucks because we were putting everything into the business. I leaned forward. By the time you were 10, we could have upgraded everything, bought a nicer house, nicer cars, sent you to private school. But we made a decision. We wanted you to understand that things have to be earned. We wanted you to see your father work hard, so you'd know what work looks like. But I didn't learn that lesson, Brandon said quietly. I just learned to be embarrassed by it. Yes, and that's partly my fault. Maybe I should have shown you more of what I'd built. Maybe I should have trusted you with the truth. Nicole spoke up. Brandon and I have made some changes. We sold the Range Rover. We moved to a smaller apartment. He took a different job at a smaller company. Project coordinator. Less money, but more growth opportunity. I'm doing the actual work now, Brandon added. Site visits, contractor meetings, the stuff I used to delegate. I'm learning what things really take. And the house? I asked. Your plans for my property? We don't have any plans, Brandon said. It's your house. It was always your house. I'm sorry I ever thought otherwise. I looked at them both for a long moment. Would you like to stay for dinner? Their faces transformed. Really? Nicole asked. Really? But you're helping cook. I don't do restaurants anymore. We made spaghetti that night. Nicole burned the sauce. Brandon overcooked the noodles. Lucas, my 5-year-old grandson, stirred the parmesan into everything because he thought it was snow cheese. We sat at my old kitchen table, the one I'd built when Brandon was a baby, and we ate together. No phones, no Instagram, no performances for invisible audiences, just family. As they were leaving, Brandon stopped at the door. Dad, I need to tell you something. What's that? I'm proud of you, not because of the company or the money, because you built something real with your life, and you never once made me feel like I had to live up to it. You just let me find my own way, even when that way was completely wrong. You're finding the right way now. He hugged me. First real hug in years. Sunday dinners, he said. Every week. We'll bring the food. You just have to be here. I'll be here. After they left, I sat on my back patio and watched the desert sunset. I thought about calling Marcus Williams, seeing if there was a way to help Brandon's career without him knowing. But I stopped myself. Some lessons only stick when you earn them yourself. The next morning, I drove my old F-150 to the office, like I did every Tuesday. Patricia, my operations director, was waiting with coffee. Saw the videos, she said. Internet's calling you the greatest dad in Arizona. Internet doesn't know anything. They know your son learned a lesson. That counts for something. We'll see. She handed me a folder. Brandon called the office yesterday. Said he wanted to apply for an entry-level position. Facilities coordinator. $12 an hour. I opened the folder. His resume, his cover letter, everything properly formatted. I told him we'd get back to him, Patricia said. What do you want me to do? I thought about it for a long moment. Tell him we're not hiring right now. But give him the name of our biggest competitor. Tell him they're always looking for hard workers who want to learn from the ground up. You sure? He needs to build something that's his. Not something I handed him. Not something with my name on it. Something he can point to and say he earned. Patricia nodded. You're a good father, Robert. I'm trying to be. That afternoon, I got a text from Brandon. Got an interview at Southwest Facilities next week. Entry level. Wish me luck. I texted back a thumbs up emoji. Some people think the greatest gift you can give your children is money, or property, or connections. They're wrong. The greatest gift is the chance to discover who they are when no one's paving the road for them. Brandon's learning that now. Nicole's learning it too. And Lucas, my grandson, is watching his parents work for things instead of expecting them. That's an inheritance worth more than any house or company or stock portfolio. If you're watching this, leave a comment about where you're from. And remember, success isn't about what you own or what you drive or how impressive your title sounds. Success is who you become when nobody's handing you anything. That's the only inheritance worth having.